gotta have knowledge for life.
You're a bit older and you haven't had your colonoscopy, if you have some weight changes or any other changes that involve your GI tract, I think screening, or not necessarily wait until you're 45. If there's an abnormality, just blood in the stool and you're 30 years old, just always remember that you can develop a colon cancer at age 30. In fact, colon cancers are starting to be discovered in young people. So just be aware.
Thank you, Dr. Patrick, and we'll hold all questions to the end. The next presenter will be Mr. Poole. You can go to the podium if you choose, or speak from here.
I'll just stay here. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming out. You don't have to be here. And really want to thank you all. I want to thank now Senator coming out and taking the time. It really speaks highly of you and being concerned about our community and the health aspects. So I want to thank you all for really. I want to thank Brother Steve, Knowledge for Life, and what he does. And I also want to thank Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown was my doctor years and years ago, and I always liked him because he would always listen, and he always believed in alternative. And so, he wore the white coat, but he also understood that he has a high teachability index and he has a high willingness to learn. And so we always would share knowledge and information, and that was big for me to be able to share my perspective, which is a different perspective with a person in a white coat that would listen, and we would share knowledge and information. So when they put this together, I was more than glad to be part of it. I don't know whether or not you all knew, in 1984, I had colon cancer. And before that, in 1979, 78, my dad had lung cancer. And I moved back home to be with my mom, to take care of my mom, and also help her take care of my dad, and also Spunky. So you all may remember Spunkies, and so I named the nightclub Spunky after my nephew, who was named Spunky, and he had multiple sclerosis. So I moved back home to assist my mom, and lost my dad. I was the last one to take him to chemo radiation. I saw him go from 220 to probably 70 pounds, and I lifted him up in care. I was the last one, and so he passed in 1980. And then in 1984, as the doctor was saying, I had blood in my stool, and I went and had a check, and I had polyps, and I had colon cancer. And when my dad had lung cancer, I had already begun to do research in terms of alternative, different approaches. And I had learned quite a bit, but my dad, being 76 at the time, wasn't accepting to a lot of the, back then, in terms of natural approaches. And I even started juicing and started a lot of things. And I want to share this too, because what's interesting, and you may experience it within your family. My sister and I, she didn't really appreciate the fact of me bringing in this natural approach. She loved my dad just as much as I did, and so we had some conflicts in terms of his approach and with conventional medicine, and where my approach. And so I just mentioned that because it's really, really interesting that within a family with different perspectives and different beliefs, how you can have contradictory opinions. And so in 1984, I was 38 years old. And sometimes you are only resourceful as the people you have around you. And what I mean by that was because Dr. Harewood, Dr. Emerson Harewood, he was an anesthesiologist. Dr. Harewood and I grew up together ever since the age of 8 or 9. And his wife also was in internalist. And I'm sharing that because when I came down with colon cancer, I wasn't going to do surgery. But this is why I say sometimes it's you're only resourceful as the people you have around you. But with them, they said, hey, let's do the surgery. I didn't do any chemo and radiation, but I did do the surgery. And my opinion today is that, I think, and I've shared it with Doc in terms of, I think surgery, this is my perspective in terms of chemo and radiation. And it's interesting, I talked to Doc yesterday, last evening, and the chemo and radiation back then was terrible. Maybe Doc, you can talk about that. Whereas today it's not as detrimental and strong. But anyway, I didn't have surgery, so I got about a 16-inch scar. I did no chemo, no radiation, and that's when I began to change my lifestyle. And so, I changed my lifestyle. The importance of diet, and I'm gonna just go through some very quick things here. Diet is so very, very important. Brother Steve touched on it, especially us as African Americans. I know when I began to change my lifestyle with my mom and early in the game, and that was before my dad got sick. I was beginning to change my lifestyle and become a vegetarian and so forth. And I remember my mother said, let me tell you something, you think you're too good to eat my food now? And so it was a trend, it was a thing that I had to do in terms of even bringing my family along in terms of why the lifestyle changes that I had. But I changed my lifestyle, and my recommendation today, and it's very, very difficult, juicing, so very, very important. Sugar, we really got to eliminate the sugar. Sugar is so detrimental. Detoxing, cleansing, so very, very important. Exercise, movement, we have to do that. And one of the things that I've been doing, you can go back on YouTube, you can see me rebounding. I was rebounding 30 years ago, so you can see me rebounding 30 years ago. You can see me rebounding today. I rebound today. Rebounding is a little small trampoline, and what it does, it stimulates the lymphatic system. And the lymphatic system is, I think, one of the most important systems it is. It does not have a pump. And so there's things that I do in the morning to cleanse the lymphatic system. One of the other things I have down here is the Big Six. This morning, every morning, I do a massage, a tap and a massage of 6 of the lymph nodes. And the other thing that you can do is with the Big Six, with rebounding, is that it's very, very effective in terms of the lymphatic system. I can't stress the importance of the lymphatic system. No chemo, no radiation, change of lifestyle, the importance of diet change, we can go into that. Eliminate the sugar. There's so many other things, and then the juicing, try to eat things organic. And I know, it's difficult today. It's difficult already in terms of trying to make ends meet. And so now you're trying to a family to say, hey, organic. And so you can't eat organic. And the reason for organic is that, you want to get away from the glyphosate. Glyphosate is something that they put on the vegetables and the food, and it destroys the microbiome of the gut. And it's one of the most, it's in Roundup. And, it just, it destroys. Early detection, very, very important. I'm gonna share this. About 9 months ago, I had 4 tests. There's 4 tests that I have done. One was a hair test, which determined I did a hair analysis, I did a blood analysis and this is with Dr. Rectal, and he's a local doctor. And his blood analysis is like a 52 panel. He looks for a lot more things than the average looks for in a blood. And so I had I had a hair analysis, I had a blood analysis, I had a cancer panel done, I had a hormonal done, and quite surprisingly, the results that came back were surprisingly not good. They were not good, even with the lifestyle that I've been living. And so for the last 6 months, I've been doing some very advanced therapy. My cancer marker was up. I had very high toxic metals, lead, arsenic, low protein, low vitamin D. And so it was shocking. And so the test was very expensive, but testing is so very, very important. And so, you know, I'm doing some things now that's it's very advanced, and I will share. I talk with Don. We will have another show where we're going to basically really talk about some of the things. You know, like this morning, I had intravenous ozone. I'm doing insufflation ozone. That's in the rectal. I'm doing intravenous EDTA, intravenous vitamin C. These are things that conventional medicine, they would not recommend, either they don't know. And so I'm excited, man. I'm excited about where I am, and I'm excited about where we're going. I'm excited with the knowledge and the information because I've been directed to share some new information. And so I am so excited about tomorrow.
Right.
I'm excited with the leaders that we have. I'm excited with young millennials that I have surrounded me. And I'm just excited about life and where we're going.
Yes.
Natural Foods Plus in the Walder store. Natural Foods Plus and the Juice Schools, been there 29 years.
Right.
That's thanks to you. That's thanks to you all. 29 years. And a year and a half ago, I opened up a water store, the water store and the energy clinic. So some of the things I want to do at the water store and energy clinic, I will share later. I may be over my time, but I just want to give you all a little bit of overview of that. Supplementation, whole food supplementation is so very, very important. And so just a little bit about where I've been, where I am, and where I'm going to go. Thank you for
Yes, sir. Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Poole. That personal story is phenomenal. I've got questions for all three of these presenters after Dr. Craig presents, and then we want questions from the audience, and I think we'll still do okay on our time. So our next presenter is a young man I've known since he was, I said, 8, 9 years old or so. Played basketball with my son and they had quite a little run there with Dave and Christian over the years. So Craig was how I know him, but now he's Pastor Walder. He has decided to follow his spiritual lead, and he has a local church which he'll tell you about and his story.
Yes, thank y'all for having me. Excited to be here. As Dr. Brown said, I've been knowing him since I was about 9 years old. Me and his son was best friends. We actually became best friends. We fought over a hot dog. That's how we became best friends in basketball. But yes, now I'm the pastor of a chosen church in Clayton, Ohio. God is really blessing us. And just to give a quick summary of my past experience with colon cancer, I was diagnosed in 2022. But in my diagnosis, they actually said I had it for about a year. So I walked around for a whole year, 2021 and 2022, with that in my body. And one reason that I really went to the doctor is because I started experiencing excruciating abdominal pain and shortness of breath. You know, I cycled, I was still playing basketball, but in the midst of me doing that, I was like, almost feeling like I was about to die. So I went to the doctor, and you know, it takes a lot for my age group, Senator Blackshear, you know, for us to go to the doctor, because normally we just drink ginger ale soup because of lack of ignorance and think that that's gonna be all right. But I went to the doctor, and they said, my doctor at the time, family doctor, been with him for years. That's why I appreciate Dr. Brown. And sometimes, you know, doctors might stay longer than they should if they don't keep up with the times, because we know our body. And this doctor told me at the time that I had anemia. He said I was anemic. My blood cells was low, so they put me on some pills for that. But it wasn't helping. My body was still, I was, you know, in excruciating pain. My weight was dropping rapidly. And I ended up actually going to DC to see Dr. Brown's son, my best friend, and we went on a hiking trail. We was going up the mountain. I had to stop. I was gonna pass out. We had to stay there for about 10, 20 minutes, make it back down the hill, messed my whole trip up, wasted that flight money. But I came back and got a second opinion from another doctor. He said we can do an emergency colonoscopy. And in that they found 90% of my right colon was covered in cancerous polyps. So for a whole year, he said basically you've had it since 2021, maybe 2020 when we start going down the list of my family and yada yada. And I never knew if anyone in my immediate family had colon cancer, because my dad would never go to the doctor. And I asked my stepmother of some symptoms that she might have noticed, and the symptoms that she said she started seeing was blood in the stool. At bottom, she said he had all that. So come to find out, we never knew why he passed, but we ended up finding out because they ended up saying I had Lynch syndrome as well. I guess it all came from my father. So as Brother Ricky said, they offered you 3 things, either chemo or radiology, and I said, let's do surgery. And I've been good ever since, no more pain. It got good. It's my short story.
So we're gonna do questions and answers, and again, I will recognize whoever, raise your hand, but I will start the questions with Dr. Partick. The young man mentioned Lynch syndrome. Well, let me say one thing about Craig to complete his story. The doctor, and I won't call the doctor's name, that we won't do that. We're not gonna do any shaming. But I did ask him who was it. So I know. But the doctor told me he had hemorrhoids. Yeah. And this was going on year after year. I mean, month after month. So the issue is this, folks. You gotta know that doctor you see care about you. You wanna know that he cares, but does he care about you? Right. And then too, you wanna know that he knows. And I won't call the doctor's name, but he stayed too long. This was an older doctor, wasn't reading the data, wasn't researching, didn't know that colon cancer was occurring at a much younger age. When I started practicing medicine over 40 years ago, we didn't screen people till age 50. And Dr. Partick was doing all my people. We kept her very busy because I knew then people were dying from colon cancer. There were guys not even doing it at age 50. They were waiting till they saw the blood. But screening is what saves your life. And we all agree. Now, Ricky told you a little bit of backdrop about us. We can debate and have dialogue about what you do after you diagnose it, but we all agree that you want to diagnose it as early as possible. So Dr. Patch, I want you to talk about Lynch syndrome that Pastor Craig mentioned, and that would be the first place we'll start the conversation.
Probably Lynch syndrome is the most common inherited colon cancer. Usually what happens is there's a couple of family members in a generation who have had colon cancer, and then usually when the next thing they do is once the tumor is removed, then they do some genetic studies, and then if the patient is positive for those genetic markers, then more than likely and they do have Lynch syndrome, and so your children need to be monitored. You look at the age that the youngest person developed the colon cancer, and you may go 10 years below that. So if the person developed it at age 30, then probably that the next generation should undergo a colonoscopy at age 20. So, but that would be very cool regarding colonoscopy in young adults. You know, even an 18 or 19-year-old has it, because you don't have to have the familial polyposis syndrome.
So we're gonna screen all African Americans age 45 and 40 or younger if there's a history of family. If somebody died, you don't know why they died, tell your doctor you need a colonoscopy. Forget him if he says you're not old enough. Forget him if he says you don't have any symptoms. Find another doctor. I saw a hand. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you guys been kind of throwing up a lot of terms in which I definitely not. So just tell me what is each. I guess it's deeper than I think.
It's a genetic syndrome.
Ma'am,
A genetic colon cancer syndrome.
genetic colon cancer syndrome.
So if you can repeat it and then
So-
give her.
Okay.
So I might actually have a concern in myself, right? Because I'm embarrassed, but
Yeah, don't send me in there.
so I don't have a bowel movement. And literally like maybe twice a week, right? We max, and that's all I do. And I do exercise, right? So I found that when I drink plenty of water, when I run and things of that, it stimulates me so that I tend to go a little bit more often. But short of that, my eating habits could be better. I eat once a day, right? I just don't have an appetite at all. So, you know, so I'm thinking that might actually be a problem if you don't have a battle in this on the day.
Have you had your colonoscopy?
My last colonoscopy was possibly around 15, 20 years ago. I don't go to the doctor. I'm one of those. I'm one of those people, right? I don't go to the doctor. I have no physical ailments. Although I pay for my insurance, I don't use it, right? Because I have no interest in going to the doctor.
I would start with your primary care physicians, let them refer you to a gastroenterologist, get your colonoscopy. I would start there first, and then that probably will ease your concerns. And then maybe they can also assist you in having more frequent bowel movements. Because some people only have bowel movements a couple of times a week, and that's okay if that's okay for them. But I would start with your primary care doc.
But there is data, as a study to show that there is a high incidence of colon cancer in people that are constipated. So that alone is a symptom that you really should have a colonoscopy. Was there another hand before we go to the next question that I have? Okay.
Doc, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
For cancer. He was saying that he had cancer a year ago, but a lot of the things that I've read, everybody in here probably has cancer cells. I mean, so
And you're correct. Yeah, cancer, as we speak, and Rick is right. Everybody in here, don't panic, but you all have cancer cells as we speak. Because it's unfortunately we're living in a toxic environment.
Right.
And that environment is what your immune system, if it's healthy, prevents the cancer cells from becoming tumors.
Right.
Now, when we're talking about screening, when Dr. Partick does a colonoscopy, she sees a tumor. And it may not even be a tumor initially, these are polyps. And these polyps can then grow to become masses. So, but you've got the cancer cells now. Some of the things that Rick is doing, and we'll talk about that at length and we'll give a presentation about that, is addressing that end of the spectrum before it gets to be a mass, before it gets to be. But we do know the tumor load, as we call it, is important. So the larger that tumor is, the more likely you're going to have a complication, which might even be death. So we talk about debriding, which is the purpose of surgery. We know we're not removing all the cancer, but we want to get as much of that tumor out as we can with surgery, and then we might can do some other treatments. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
My question,
My question has to do with diet that we talked about. So are your chances of not acquiring colon cancer higher if you are on a more vegetarian type of diet?
So Ricky, you want to take that?
Man, I changed my diet. I just shared with you all in terms of some of the things. I'll answer this in terms of, I think that, yes, but I want to share something in terms of, and we're going to talk about this later, Doc, in terms of another presentation that we give. I've changed my beliefs in terms of meat. My opinion is that it has to be grass-fed. And what I found out in the last 9 months about the protein within meat, and we'll share this, like I hadn't eaten meat 50 years, and so I've changed my diet. I've changed my diet where I have incorporated meat. One of the reasons because my protein was so low. And being at my age, 78, I truly believe that a plant-based is better and more healthier, but I would have to eat a heck of a lot of plant-based to get my protein up. And so my good sense told me I need to change my diet. And I started incorporating eating eggs, which I had. Eggs is one of the most beneficial foods that there are as far as the protein. So I found that out. But what's very, 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 very important is that I make sure that it's grass-fed. It's grass-fed. And see, now I hate to throw that out there, especially with our community, because, like I say, it's hard enough to make ends meet just trying to eat. And now here somebody come talk about now I got to eat meat but grass-fed, or I got to eat vegetables but organic, and it's like, wow, it's bad enough as it is.
Right.
But okay.
That's why we're doing that. And again, we got the policy man in the room. They know how. So when we know then that this is a food desert, and even if there is food being provided, it's not the healthiest. So when we go to Columbus, we decide to go knock on Brother Blackshear's door. He'll know that what the issues are. He's heard from the expert. And actually, when I met Ricky, he was a vegetarian. And again, none of us have all the answers, and that's a good example. You got to be a student, and you got to advocate for yourself. And what you've been doing all your life may be okay, but listen to your body. He said his proteins were low. He was tested. He didn't know that till he had the test. So the importance of getting these surveillance, to having these tests ran. But let's talk again about red meat though. There's data that does show red meat is probably, you're probably more at risk eating red meat, and Ricky might disagree here, but that's why we brothers. The red meat is how it's prepared. That's what's important, and how that beef is raised. Definitely, I agree, grass, no issue. I too eat meat, but the data shows that if you compare the people that are on a well-balanced vegetarian, and what's the term when you can eat chicken and fish? What's that, Tiffany? Pescatarian. Pescatarian? Pescatarian. Okay.
But it's just fish.
And it's fish, yeah. So again, it's not red meat. That diet is healthier for you. The Mediterranean diet using olive oil. But even if you do like red meat, where we get into trouble, folk, is we want to cue it. We want to barbecue it, okay? And there's data that's showing that high temperature is what causes the carcinogens, makes it cancer prone. When you eat a lot of, it's the red meat, if it's healthy, properly fed, and properly prepared, it's fairly safe. But now, if you're gonna eat barbecue this summer, and some of y'all probably got the grill already waiting till you get home, want me to shut up so you can get there. But you gotta see how is it raised, and how is it prepared. Now there is one meat though that I would stand here and say nobody should eat, and there's plenty of data supporting that this is deleterious to your health, and that's processed meats, okay? That's your hot dogs. That's your bologna, salami, and all the other wrapped in skins. That processed meat is more dangerous than red meat. So just go home and let's back off the process. And I've always debated, boy, is bacon processed or not? Because I love bacon. And I try to convince myself that bacon is not processed. And my daughter is here telling me that. She been telling me, Daddy, bacon is processed. Any other questions? Because I've got plenty if you guys don't have any. We got plenty of time, so we can hear. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for this panel. I don't think I need the mic unless I need it for the recording.
Tiffany Brown, my daughter.
But yeah, thank you for this panel. It's really great. So Dr. Patrick, you mentioned, and hello again, good to see you. You mentioned familial polyposis. Can you talk about what that is? You may have said it when I was out, but what is that?
It's familial polyposis when you have a number of polyps. There are many types of polyposis syndrome that make up that. There's Cowden's, there's Gardner syndrome. There's a number of things that make up that. Some people, you will get a scope and you'll see hundreds of polyps. And then there's also there's juvenile polyposis syndrome, but some polyposis syndrome are inherited. Although the amount is low, but there are some polyposis syndromes that are inherited. Like I said, most of the colon cancers are sporadic.
But those are not cancer, the familial polyposis syndrome.
They can become cancers because the more polyps you have, they're usually adenomatous polyps.
Yeah.
And the more polyps that you have, the more the potential. Yeah, and they can be up to 100%. You can develop colon cancer. 100% of the patients who present with familial polyposis syndromes can develop colon cancer.
So some other GI diseases, ulcerative colitis, chronic inflammatory disease, those two have increased risk of cancer.
Who's the ulcerative colitis over Crohn's?
Crohn's, absolutely, or Crohn's, definitely that. Okay, so the environment is important, and you need to be able to access, number one, healthcare. We talked about that. I want to talk a bit about the importance of having adequate insurance so that you can see the doctors that you need to see. So we have in the audience, Sister Lil. Correct me if I didn't pronounce it right.
She said to me, yes. He said no way.
Okay. She's going to share with us her thoughts or some concerns that she has about providers and insurance coverage, which is very important. Not only is there a food desert, but we frequently are underinsured, and that's an issue that we're going to want Brother Blackshear to help us with.
Okay, I wrote some notes down, so if you could bear with me, I will read my notes because I don't want to forget anything.
Awesome, like so first of all,
This is in pertaining to low incomes, because we have a lot of our people that are low income or with fixed incomes don't have insurance. So that's what I'm going to be talking about as specifically calling under. And I also touch on VA benefits. And I don't represent insurance or VA, so I just want you to know. In Ohio, you can sign up for Medicaid. Medicaid doesn't have to do with your coverage, but there's a stipulation. In Ohio, Medicaid recovers, they have a Medicaid recovery effort, and what they do is once they, you get care from Medicaid, and you say pass away, that if you're over 55, they'll go after your estate for that. So, and I have more information of that on the, being down there. There's also the marketplace coverage. You can go there, and it's based on your income. Actually, Medicaid's based on your income, but Medicaid or the marketplace coverage is an option that could be used for flood insurance plans, and you can then look for insurance there. You can also, based on your eligibility, if you're a veteran and you received an honorable discharge, you can go to VA and get care. So and I'm gonna read this part, as far as eligibility. Veterans with colon cancer related to their service connection can receive 100% VA disability rating for up to 6 months following the end of treatment. The PACT Act allows for the presumptive service connection for colon cancer based on toxic exposure to Gulf War era and post 9/11 veterans. And then they have, on their website, they have, what you can qualify for. Now, if you have a adjunct condition outside of, that's related to your cancer, you're going to be, and it's a secondary condition, you could receive a separate rating based on the severity. So the VA has a diagnosis code which they use to, and they work with the doctors with that. So I can answer some questions about insurance too. So also, if your spouse has insurance, you probably want to make sure that you're one their insurance.
Yeah, this is for permanent adopt. Maybe existing in this one. Can we talk about coverage for colonoscopies? Like, if you do have, make sure this is preventive, right? So you don't have to pay a copay for it. Typically, it's covered well, right? Well, it depends on the carrier. You may end up having to BS. You may end up having to pay a copay. Yes.
You may end up having to pay a copay because it's like visiting your physician's office. So you may, that means all of them cover at least age 50.
Okay.
Some of them may or may not cover at age 45. Okay. But although age 45 is designated to be the age, but also remember that if you get a Cologuard, and your Cologuard's positive, then you have a colonoscopy, your colonoscopy may not be covered.
So should they be doing Cologuards?
That's the question.
Yeah, so that Cologuard is really a marketing ploy. And it's for the DNA in the cancer. So but it's not as good as a colonoscopy, and that's what they imply. So some of us that don't want to subject ourselves to that will migrate toward Cologuard. But again, you may miss the opportunity to get what you really need. Cologuard can only say what may be in, but it doesn't say exactly what. It's not a biopsy. It's not a diagnostic tool. Lil, did you cover all that you wanted to cover? Or did you have more?
Yes, I covered everything.
Okay.
I mean, I have more, but that's if you have questions.
Okay, thank you. So we're getting close to the end of the hour, but still I want to get, Steve.
We got a question from the internet,
Okay.
and they're asking the question, what is the best water we should be drinking? How's that?
Let's go to the waterman.
Well, the water storing energy clinic, we have a filtration system there that I personally think, there's some say reverse osmosis, but I really think alkaline water. When we were born either way from 7.25 to 7.45 alkalinity. When we think about the pH chart, it goes from 0 to 14. In the middle is 7. So from 0 to 6 or 0, anything underneath that is negative. Anything above that is positive. And so we're born like 7.25 to 7.35. I recommend, and a lot of people that I follow, is an alkaline. Oliver Warburg said back in the 30s that no cancer can exist in an alkaline environment. And so what we find is that, we're born 7.25 to 7.35, but as we eat the standard American diet and the stress and everything else, it makes us more acidic. And so when we drink alkaline water, it's going to make us more alkaline.
And that's a very good question. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to, I think it's important, and I would love for Pastor from his experience and maybe yourself from just your medical knowledge, for those of us who are walking around, what signs should we look for?
Symptoms of colon cancer, that's your question.
What I've actually been told is a lot of times you don't get a lot of symptoms with colon cancer. They said what I was experiencing was, she basically said that was the Lord. But a lot of times they say you don't have a lot of experience. That's why screenings is so important.
Amen.
But if not, the abdominal pains that I was experiencing was very excruciating. So I would say that I was experiencing shortness of breath and all that. So those were the two major things that I was experiencing. But it all goes back to the screening, and most of the time with us, it's just a lack of knowledge. The Bible says my people suffer from a lack of knowledge, and a lot of times my age group, we're ignorant. You can go in a barbershop, me and Senator Blackshear, we go to the same barbershop, and you hear men say, man, I don't want my target color messed with. Not knowing the colonoscopy, most of the time you don't know what's going on anyway. But it's the ignorance of not knowing and what you hear, and you don't want to go to the doctor because you're afraid of the diagnosis. So the screening is important, but if there was some signs, it would be the abdominal.
So to add to that would be blood.
Yeah, and blood and the urine in the stool. Yes, sir.
So, Pastor, while you got the mic, and again, I'm going back to your father, who knows what was going on.
Right.
But what I heard you say was he refused to see a doctor.
Gee.
And I do know when I was practicing, I got most of my male physicals done when I insisted that significant other talk to him. So can you speak to that? What's in our culture that makes us, it's not just an aversion for colonoscopy, but an aversion to see doctors, period. Can you speak to that?
Well, I believe a lot of times in our culture, especially in the church, we put stuff on God that God didn't say. I'm gonna put this holy oil on me and I'm gonna be all right. Well, if God created the knowledge for the doctors, then go to the doctors. And a lot of times with my father and his generation, my father was screaming Crown Point, that's where he was from. Well, Crown Point ain't gonna save you from colon cancer. But it's just not wanting to deal with it. Some don't have the medical, some don't want to pay the bills. He worked for Montgomery County Juvenile Courts for years, and the insurance was sky high. So I believe it's a lot of factors, but I know in the people that I've been around, a lot of the times it's just not wanting to know if something's wrong.
And do you have a health ministry at your church?
Yes, we have a health and wellness ministry that your daughter Tiffany is a part of, under Dr. Tiffany Thompson. So it's a major thing because we've actually had a lot of people in our congregation who've had a scare of cancer. Thank God they've been all right, but that's a major thing that we want to be whole and holy, not holy and broke down. That's a major thing that we promote at the church.
I like that. I'm gonna have to come hear that sermon. So, Mr. Young.
Yes.
You want to bark it out or you want the mic? What you say is important. We want to get you on the mic.
The other aspect here that I would say in reference to doctors, people of color have had a difficult time dealing with them because of the tests that they perform on them.
Right.
So that in itself is an aversion to seeing the doctor. So I'm sure history speaks for itself in that.
Yes.
So I just want to add that.
Good point. You're referring to the Tuskegee study and others, and things that happened to prisoners and without their knowledge, and slavery. We didn't need doctors, so all of that is cultural, and we're carrying all of that. And not just this topic, but when you look at healthcare disparities, the commonality are the issues that we talked about today. We could sub that topic for diabetes and anything else. We'll have more complications, more amputations. You name the disease, we get the worst outcome. America gets a cold and we get pneumonia. Everybody knows that analogy. So it speaks that it's not that we're sick inherently, but our environment is sick. And then we don't know the gene makeup. We don't know what's going on because a lot of us don't seek out the information. So if we're looking at where we live and where we worship and where we work and who we love and where we shop and what we eat, if those factors can be modified, we would all be healthier. But of course, if you're in an impoverished area and you're going to school that may not be up to where it should be. They've replaced physical ed and art and music with other things that are not contributing to you being healthy. And so you come up not knowing. And so you're coming from an impoverished neighborhood, and of course then you cannot afford to even seek higher education. And now with D&I being challenged, diversity and inclusion, those monies that were set aside for us that were affirmative action being one, but several others, they aren't going to be there. So we are not going to get that help from the government that we were getting, and it's definitely they want to criminalize people that even promote diversity and inclusion and taking the money out. So who you think gonna suffer? It's us. So we got to take care of ourselves. We have to advocate for ourselves. You got to know who you're talking to. You got to challenge us. I want you to challenge us. And the community need to challenge Brother Steve and I as to what programs that we put on that's going to help you guys be healthy. Now, we got a lot of knowledge, and I can bring pretty much anybody to this table that you guys say you want to hear from. This issue of maternal and childhood health. It's such a travesty. I know of cases right here in Dayton that are just as bad as the cases that we hear on national news. We got the same problems right here in Dayton. The fact that we don't have available, talking to a gentleman today, available trauma centers that are close by. And yeah, the Valley would like to say, yeah, but we got the helicopter and we can get them in and out and all of that. But profit is what drives healthcare. Right. And we are a sort of a lost feeder. You know, they sacrificed us from day one as I mean, the Constitution so deemed it, that we were not citizens. We were not humans, so to speak. And that theory is still there. They don't want to talk about it. Nobody wants to hear that. But oh yeah, it's still there. That mindset is there. Sometimes I have to question myself what I'm thinking. I'm like, well, where did that come from? So sometimes we ourselves still have to get rid of some of these carryovers from that mentality of saying that we are less than a society that honors us. We got to honor ourselves. We got to promote ourselves. And that's why I really think Brother Muhammad for realizing that this was an opportunity to educate the community, and I am really glad to be a part of this. Was there a comment?
There was a question.
Question, yeah.
So when we say advocate, like we the people need to know questions to ask them.
Right.
If you don't know, then how can you say, well, Dr. Brown, like, you know, the questions you have to be educated. When we talk about advocating for yourself, we must know the questions, the right questions to ask.
And there is a program already in the planning where we're going to have that topic.
Great. And then quick, I know that there is certain ounces of water that one is supposed to drink according to their body weight. Would you happen to know those numbers?
She asked, how much water should one drink based on their body weight?
This what man, I know that pounds.
What the literature shows is half your weight in pounds or the ounces you should drink.
Half of your weight.
Yeah.
But then there's some other data that came out that said if you're thirsty, drink water. But a lot of us are chronically thirsty and we don't know that we need to drink water. Most of us are not drinking enough water, so that's a good question, good point.
Yeah.
You can't drink too much water. Okay, so we're coming to the end, and for those on the internet, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we appreciate your questions. So we want to grow this. This is your program. This is where you're going to get your knowledge. And then we want you to tell your friends and your family. And if you got somebody that's not listening to you and you're giving them advice, just suggest that they come with you next time. And they may hear something that might make your job a little easier. So knowledge is life, and that's what we're all about. I'll turn the mic over now to the fearless Steve Muhammad, who was this was his baby that he birthed. And let's give Steve a hand again for another dynamic presentation.
All right. Let's give it up for our panelists. did a beautiful job. And let's give it up for you all that came on out. We really appreciate you. And tell friends, tell family, tell what that guy saying that one viral video, tell everybody, right? Because if we don't know our health status, then there's a lot that we don't understand, right? And so what we want to do is we also want to focus on some mental health issues within our community, because many of us are not recognizing that we're suffering from trauma. Trauma, not necessarily from anything that we've experienced in our life, but the trauma is right there in our DNA, right? From past experiences. So we need to understand how we can exorcise some of these demons that are within us that keep us. So let me give you, for instance, and I'll make it quick. We're 38% of the population here in Dayton, Ohio, right? However, we have maybe 2%. We control 2% of the businesses here in the community. So think about how disunited we are, and we have made that disunity something that is a normality, and it's not normal. So we want to definitely address these type of issues, and with that, we want to invite everyone to check out our website at Know for Life. That's KNOW, the number 4, LIFE.net, NET.net. We're going to throw a net and catch everybody. Oh, one other thing. Sorry. We have a book called Immunity Empowerment. You can go on to our website and you can get that book. That book helps to fund our operation. And that book talks about the science of sleeping, the science of breathing. Some of us don't breathe right. And when we're under stress, some of us don't breathe at all. Do you know you just stop breathing, then you're like, and that's because you weren't breathing. So there's a science, there's so many different sciences. So check that book out. So with that, I want to thank you all for coming out. May God continue to bless you and your family with the light of truth and understanding. Assalamu alaikum. God bless.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
This is actually for a full circle moment. I actually just had a conversation with a doctor who wants to educate the community and also help folks get colonoscopies. So
excellent.
I was actually gonna, we're still trying to iron out details, but also reach out to a couple of community organizations, churches, go to barbershops, just so individuals can get that education, because I believe it is important. Your zip code should determine your life expectancy. What our community deals with.
And can you come on up? We want to put you on the camera.
Okay.
Obstacle. Yeah, let's get there.
Which really is an obstacle. Yeah.
I work with seniors, and every time I'm here, I'm like somebody on the phone.
Yeah, so what I was saying is that I actually just had a meeting with a doctor earlier who wants to do some work in our community in terms of education and making sure folks do get colonoscopies.
Can you share his name and contact?
Yeah. So his name is Dr. Sanjay Sanher. Stand here. There we go. Stand here. I actually met him at an event last week, and he said he wanted to talk to me. So he said he wanted to get more involved in the community, and making sure that we get the care we deserve, because we all deserve to live. When you look at our communities, we die at such a earlier age, and thinking about the C word, I had to deal with that in my life. I lost my dad at 56. That's young. He had more life to live. So just making sure that everyone is getting that preventative care, and making sure we get the resources that we deserve and need in our community. Not only just from this aspect, but also policy as well. So working on that. I hear the concerns, and I work on it every day in the sense of making sure that our organizations get the funding needed, such as the Gym City Market. That some of that funding came from the state, but then also other organizations that are out here doing the work as well, and also too making sure that we have policies that work for all of us, not just some of us. So that's just all I want to share. But this was a great panel. Thank you all for some of the things that you all shared. It was very informative. So thank you once again.
Thank you.